And let me just start by welcoming everybody. Beacon is an intentionally diverse congregation. We getting any closer? It'll happen. By diverse, we mean diverse in terms of age. Not all of us are old like me. Diverse in terms of background. We have lots of people of many, many different backgrounds. But we're particularly diverse in terms of theology, political beliefs, attitudes. And one of the things that I love about this congregation is that we promote that. Rather than asking you to adopt a dogma or theology and telling you, this is the way the universe operates, instead we ask you to think for yourself. We ask you to bring your own beliefs and attitudes. And we hope that we challenge them. Today, we're having something particularly fun. Every year, the congregation foolishly lets me have a rock and roll service. So, several months ago, I passed out a ballot with lots of names of musical artists and musical styles. And the three highest vote getters were Simon and Garfunkel, number one, the Beatles, we already had our Beatles fundraiser, and the last one was Joni Mitchell, and you'll be hearing more about our Joni Mitchell fundraiser. Among other things, that tells me that most people in the congregation are part of my generation. We grew up with the same music. This is the soundtrack of our lives. Our chalice is a reminder that we're simply one congregation among Unitarian Universalist congregations across the entire planet. There's 750,000 Unitarian Universalists. 250,000 of them are in the United States, but we're connected. We are part of a worldwide effort to, I think, bring peace and kindness to the world. I believe that we're the good guys. I'd like to start by sharing a dream with you. As most of you know, I'm a retired psychologist, and one of the things I did was a lot of dream interpretation. Carl Jung is one of my heroes, and he talked a lot about how to interpret dreams. Most dreams are essentially just information processing. It's the brain taking information from the day and sorting it out and decide what to keep in long-term storage, what to let go. And a lot of dreams are simply narrative stories. Sometimes they're first person, you are the star of your little movie. Sometimes you're narrating the movie. But Jung said there are also dreams we call big dreams. Big dreams are the ones that you wake up and you go, that was important. And last night I had a big dream. And I think it was related to all the thinking I've been putting into today's service about emotions and about music. Let me give you some context. 2 months ago, I shared that I had a recent sudden hearing loss. A virus attacked my auditory nerve, and essentially I've lost all hearing in my right ear. So people who come talk to me on this side of me, I have no idea what you're saying, so go to the other side, yell at me, and I'll hear you clearly. Tom's really good at that. So I had a dream about music and hearing. Like a lot of dreams, two whole parts of my life that are decades apart simply came together. Nice thing about a dream, it's your universe, you can do whatever you want to in it. So in this dream, I was a young man, and I was dating a woman who I really cared about, and it was time to meet the parents. So there I was in the living room meeting their parents for the first time. And I didn't know them, but they seemed like good, down-to-earth people. And I shared with him my hearing loss, that I have a disability, and, please talk to me loudly and I'll do just fine. And then the woman brought out something and said, you should try this. And it was a plastic mask that went over the face. And she said there's some new technology which allows you to hear through your temples and your facial muscles. So I put it on in the dream. And suddenly I was hearing Linda Ronstadt in stereo sound. And in the dream, I broke out crying. Now, like most guys, I have a serious testosterone affliction, so I don't cry public very much. But these were tears of joy. They were also tears of grief. It was about loss, but it was also about finding something that is so important to me. Music is so important to me. Music is the language of emotions. And that's why every year I do a music service, because what I say is going to be far less important than the music that you hear. That's particularly true of Simon and Garfunkel, because they were outstanding songwriters. Most of the songwriting was done by Paul Simon. So some of it's fun, pop, it's cute, it's creative, but a lot of it was very moving. I don't know about you, but Simon and Garfunkel was one of the very first artists I ever really heard when I was a kid, and it's imprinted here. It is part of the story of my life. So I'd like to talk a little bit about emotion. It's interesting, we live in a world where we're constantly interacting with the emotions of others, although a lot of it's on Netflix and Amazon Prime. But people's emotions can be very baffling. Basic theory of emotions is that there's only 4 primary emotions, and every other emotion is some combination or intensity of those emotions. And fortunately, 3 of them rhyme: glad, sad, mad, and afraid. Glad, sad, mad, and afraid. Now, we experience hundreds of different emotions, but they're always a combination of these basic 4. As a psychologist, much of what I would do is listen to the content of people's words, but also listen to their hearts. What are their emotions? Because they often come to me because their emotions are confusing to them. Often the emotions are conflicting. I have 2 grandchildren. I see a lot of emotion every single day. He looked at me! Or the newest one, he gave me the finger. But they're the same emotions that we have. They're not different. But in kids, they're simpler, they're more pure. And if you've spent time with kids, those emotions can change on a dime. Let me talk a little bit about the brain and how emotions operate. Most of the information that your body receives is sensory information up the spinal cord. Your arms, your legs, your stomach goes up the spinal cord. We're also discovering more and more that there's information from the gut that goes directly to the brain, and it's interactive. Information is constantly flowing back and forth. And the brain is always filtering information. It's deciding what's important to attend to, what you can essentially blank out. That information comes up the spinal cord and goes to the back of the head first. Back of the head, That's old brain structure. That's sight, respiration, temperature, things that we share in common with fish. Then information moves to the central part of the brain and essentially a strip along the top of the brain. Central part of the brain is the limbic system. Limbic system is where our emotions are. Emotions are a combination of memory and new information. So when you take a look at emotions, emotions tell you the meaning of events. What does this new information mean to you? Is it important? Is it unimportant? Is it sad? Is it joyful? Is it erotic? What is this new information? Finally, information goes to the frontal lobes. That's where reasoning takes place. The term we use is executive functioning. It's in charge of time and tasks. It helps us deal with the modern world. It's planning, it's organizing, it's implementing. But it's useful to know that information goes to the emotions before it goes to reasoning. It's part of the reason why when people have an attitude, it's very hard to change. Let's say you love Donald Trump. There actually are people like that. So you hear he's shutting down the Department of Education, or maybe he's not, depends on the day. The feeling you have about the event will largely determine the attitude you will have about the event. Emotions are primary, reasoning is secondary. There's a type of therapy called EMDR, which was developed 50 years ago, which basically said that information between the two hemispheres gets stuck, and you need to improve the communication between the two hemispheres. As we now know more neuroscience, we know that's not true. But the therapy actually works pretty well. It's interesting how we can do things without knowing why. It's sort of like aspirin. We don't know why aspirin relieves pain, but especially at my age, I know aspirin really well. The bottom line is that we're all emotional beings. We live in a sea of emotion. And emotions are how we connect. It tells us what we like, what we want to avoid. It tells us who we love. A very famous psychologist named Ekman did research about facial recognition of emotion. He went all around the world and showed people from vastly different cultures pictures of faces. Virtually everybody in every society can recognize the same facial emotions. Emotions are universal. Sigmund Freud, person that brought you fixation with sex, and he strongly recommended cocaine for the treatment of depression. Very interesting guy. But he came up with a phrase called ambivalence. What he meant was that people can have completely contrary emotions about the same experience. For example, love and hate are not opposites. Love and indifference are opposites. Because all you've got to do is live with somebody for a couple months, and people that you really love annoy the hell out of you. Most of our relationships are a complex mixture of several emotions. And one of the things I would do as a psychologist is try to unwrap that you may have more than one feeling about the same event and experience.